I appreciate you giving me some time to visit with you about the program that we call Pathway to Proficiency. It really is all about bringing together the elements of a school in a low-performing school in order to help children achieve proficiency. Now, the reasons and the ways are varied. There are so many things that are involved in this process that it's going to be difficult for me to explain to you in 10 minutes what it's really all about. But I'm going to do my best and share with you the keys that will make a difference and help you, hopefully, to understand the depth that we're going into in this particular class. So this is really all about building a pathway to proficiency so that children have an opportunity. You're going to see here in a few minutes some statistics. I'm going to share with you some things that research has shown us and helps us to understand that I really want you to understand, because these are the things that sustain us and make us want to be able to do something that'll make a difference. And I know that you work hard every single day. It's really learning how to work smarter within the areas that are necessary for these children to be successful. So this all begins with building strong foundations. Without strong foundations, we really can't move forward. So just like a student or a child needs a strong foundation, so too does a school need a strong foundation if it's going to be effective in this area. From there, we need leaders, principals who are ready to lead. You know, being a leader, being a principal in a low-performing school is difficult. It's not a simple process. Principals get tired, they get worn out. There's so many things to have to deal with on a daily basis. It's time to really marshal up and be ready for that challenge and realize that we have to do certain things as administrators. You have to do certain things to keep yourself ready for that challenge on a daily basis. That's what that portion is all about. Teachers that understand and effectively utilize data. There is a mountain of data available now for children. But do we use it? Do we actually use it to direct and understand what's happening with children in our schools? We need students who know how to analyze their own learning and their ability to analyze their learning and their ability to plug that in as and when they need to. We have students and teachers who are working together to establish learning paths, individual learning paths for each one that's there. And then teachers and principals who are working together to establish and learn how to achieve the school goals. So in a nutshell, that's what really this is all about. The bigger question is why? Why are we going to this length? Well, we know that there's a long-standing history of schools that perform poorly. And really, it's not the school that's performing poorly, it's the children in the school who are performing poorly. And we really have to take a look at why. And if we're going to make a difference, we have to understand what it is that's important about that in order for us to continue to want to make a difference. We have to know that we can make a difference, first of all. And as you look at these little snippets that come out of the research that's currently available, again, my point is not to depress anybody or to bring you down or to make you feel hopeless in this process, but rather to help people to understand the urgency and the consistency that's necessary in order for these children to really have an opportunity. Because as you'll see in this data, as you're reading through this, you can know how difficult it is for these children to actually be successful. Now, I promise you, I have worked in some of the most difficult schools in the nation, some of the absolute worst schools in the United States, and have worked with them for a number of years, helping them to understand what it is that we can do effectively. And we've worked together. It's not all been, here's what I think you should do. It's here's what we find to be effective. And as we implement certain things, we can begin to reverse some of the trends that you're seeing up here right now. These things are real. And my guess is, as you're looking at the information that I'm sharing with you, you're also understanding and you're looking at the dates when this research was done, and you're understanding, like I do, that even in the short shift of 4 or 5 or 6 years, depending on the research you're looking at, the world has shifted even more. It's more difficult for children out there today than it has been in the past. And we, again, knowing and understanding that helps us to be able to make a difference. So, as you're looking at this, hopefully it's touching you in ways that you know that there's a significant need just beyond the reading and math that's so necessary for children to learn, but there is so much more. So I'm going to stop there with the data, and hopefully again you now understand the significance of this. And if you didn't, this is just a reminder. But there really is so much for us to be able to do. So when we talk about strong foundations, what are we actually talking about there? And again, I'm giving you an overview here, so hopefully you understand a little bit more about what you're getting into if you decide that this is for you. And I hope that you do, because it'll make a significant difference for you. But the very first thing that we have to understand is we've got to know where we're going. There has to be what we call vision, or a deeper purpose. What it is that we're actually doing. Now, this is not something that you see on the wall. There are lots of those. There's lots of schools with vision statements. There's lots of schools with mission statements, and they're wonderful statements. But do we actually use them? Do we know what they're for and what they're all about? So on one end of the spectrum, we have to understand the deeper purpose. On the other end of the spectrum, we have to understand responsibility. And responsibility goes hand in hand with accountability. We really can't separate those two. So as we look at what really is going on in the school, we have to know where we're going, and then we have to keep our own individual responsibility and help others to be responsible in moving in that direction. So that creates a strong set of foundations. From there, we're looking at engaged leadership. These are principals, administrators who are truly engaged in the process. They're prepared themselves, they know what they've gotten into, they know what each day is going to be like, and have prepared themselves to handle it. And when I mean prepared, I mean in every single way. If you're not prepared physically, emotionally, socially, intellectually to handle this, it's not going to work. And part of that is becoming an instructional leader. The intellectual part is and social part is becoming an instructional leader and knowing what that means. As it pertains to math and reading and getting children to proficiency. Now, the reality is, in this particular class, we're not going to talk about math and reading techniques. We're not going to talk about how to teach math better. We're not going to talk about how to teach reading better. That's not what we're here for. It's those things that happen at the local level that truly can be effective with the children that you have. We're talking about how to keep that engine moving, how to keep everything moving forward. Knowing and communicating the vision is one huge part of that. And we are going to share things with you along that line so that you know it, you have it, it's yours, it's within you, and it comes out of you very naturally. Learning how to serve those that you work with so that they can better serve children. That really is the purpose, isn't it? As we continue to understand what it is that we actually do, we're servants. The administrators, the principals are servants in this process. And as you serve the teachers, as you serve the other adults who work in the building, who work with children, it allows them to better serve the children, which is the bottom line. And then finally, establishing accountability. Without accountability, the whole process will fall apart. Now, we all have to be accountable. That's not a negative thing. Around here, we have a saying, we assess to progress. That's really what it's all about. We simply want to see progression. Now, we also need engaged teachers. And that's what the next part is about. Helping you help teachers. So we first have to establish the importance of getting children to proficiency. And I know that many teachers understand that, but I don't know that they understand it at the level that is necessary for them to continue to be motivated day after day in order to make a difference. And so we're going to help you to establish that importance with them. One of the huge pieces of this is helping teachers and students and parents and everybody else understand that this process is doable. You can make a difference. You can make this happen. And it's not as difficult as you might think, but it also isn't easy. So please understand that this is a very doable process. We have to understand what the data tells us. Data tells stories. And we have to understand what that story is, and we have to understand the context of the data that's telling the story. Because data does tell a story, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And we want to make sure that we're collecting and reviewing the data that truly tells the story. We have to have the right mindset for proficiency. And I promise you that's likely to be different than what you think it might be, but we do have to have the right mindset for establishing proficiency. We also have to help students understand their own data. This is data pertinent to individual students. And it's not understanding in a global sense, it's Mark understanding Mark's data. It's Sally understanding Sally's data. It's Juan understanding Juan's data. With that process, with their depth of understanding, it becomes meaningful to them. When it becomes meaningful, they actually will want to make a difference. Finally, we work with teachers in how to establish a classroom goal. And the administrators has to approve the classroom goal. Once it's approved, ready to go, then it has meaning. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but to understand that one of your processes is to establish that goal. Once we have engaged teachers, we can next move to engaged students. And that really is where we're ultimately headed, isn't it? If these students are engaged in their learning process, if they're engaged in the educational process, they are far more likely to move to proficiency. That's what we're really all about. So, what data do we have available that students understand and can use on a consistent basis in your school? Again, not talking globally, we have to get down to the nitty-gritty of your particular school. And how does that work in your school? You have to understand, or students rather, have to understand and comprehend the importance of what it is that we're trying to accomplish with them. So in other words, do they really understand what it means to be at proficiency? Not just what it means on that test, not just what it means when they're looking at that computer screen, but what it means for their life. How does it translate? How does it motivate for each individual student? So we're going to take a look at that. We're going to look at what it means to have an empowering learning mindset. Again, it's not necessarily that these children are incapable of learning. There is so much around the social, emotional elements of what's going on in this child's life that maybe the intellectual never comes out. And so we're going to take a look at what we can do to bring out that learning mindset and help a child establish a learning mindset that's empowering to them for the future. What can we learn from the data? And do we use data to track and monitor? And do we use data to forecast learning? So learning should be based on the data that we have. And are we using the data appropriately? Are students using the data appropriately so that they know, okay, what more can I do at home if I want to? What more can I do at the library if I want to? What more can I do during this period when I don't have much to do otherwise? What more can I do to truly learn to get me on the path to proficiency? Students need to learn and build victories. How do we build and celebrate the victories that we actually have? And this, I think we do a very poor job of currently in our school. So we really need to, in a low-performing school, we really need to celebrate the victories that we do have and begin to turn things around. And then how do we use all of this to look forward for that particular student's life? Now, with that, These are engaged students. These are individuals who are engaged. Now we need to engage them in the process of learning. And there's a very specific method that we're going to share with you. And if this is right for you in your school, then this is what we would encourage that you use. So we have to understand fully the role of data. What is the role of data in the process of learning for that individual student? How do we establish a learning path individually? These are all individual. How do we establish a learning path for that individual student? How do we coach students and parents along the path? Because this is a role of a teacher. The teacher is the one that has that immediate and strongest connection with kids. They're the ones that are going to be primarily responsible for this. So they are going to have to become coaches as well, but that doesn't take you off the hook either. You are the biggest coach of all. You're kind of like the head coach, and you have a bunch of assistant coaches who are coaching these kids, coaching these parents to get to proficiency. We also have to marshal staying on the path. And again, that's the predominant responsibility of the administrator as well. But engaging in learning means that we're staying on the path, moving to proficiency. And then, by golly, once you get there, celebrate it. And you better celebrate every step along the way. And we're going to share with you why we can't wait 7, 8, 9 months for that process and how there's a better way to do that. So all of this creates the engaged learning process. When we wrap all of this together, it becomes engaged schools. That's what this is really all about. So, what is the pathway relevance to the school? The relevance to the student, the relevance to the teacher, the relevance to the parent, the relevance to the community. It really all matters. How and why? We're gonna go over those things so that you know them and take them back. What are the student, teacher, school goals? And as we establish those, that starts with the student goals. How in the world can we establish the goal of the school without first knowing where our students are and what they need to do to be able to be what we want them to be? So we have to establish the student goals first, then the teachers establish their goals from that, and then the school establishes the goals from that, and then we all work together to achieve that. Really, that's what this is all about. Students progress at every level. So whether they're at the bottom of the proficiency scale or the top of the proficiency scale, doesn't matter. Learning is what the school is existing for. So we want the children to learn from where they are and move in a positive direction. Those who need to move to proficiency, we are intently focused on. Everybody else, we don't forget, we also move them as well. And they can use the exact same process that we're going to teach you. It's just not the focal point of what we're trying to accomplish. Imagine what happens when we take all of this and an engaged learner, student, and we have them become responsible for sharing with others how they are going to progress. That's what we want to have happen in these student-led conferences. So I do realize that many of you probably already are doing student-led conferences. This one becomes very particular to that student knowing and understanding exactly how they're going to get to proficiency and knowing exactly where they are in that process. And then what resources do they have available to actually get there? Now imagine the responsibility on everyone, the teacher, the student, the administrator, when that comes together. And then we look at what does it do for me? And as I talked about earlier, what does it do for me is definitely has the biggest impact on that child. And that's critically important. It also impacts everything else. What does it do for me pertains to the child, absolutely. What about that child's family? What does it do for them, the siblings? What does it do for them? What does it do for the teacher who worked with that child, who actually made it? What does it do for that grade level when they look at their data? What does it do for the school as a whole when everybody understands what it's done for them? There is so much that happens when the school becomes engaged. So, that's the overview of the pathway to proficiency. I really want you to join me with this. I truly do. I want to make a significant difference with you because you're the ones that go out and make the significant difference that matters. This isn't about us. This isn't about me. It's about you. It's about you helping your children in your schools be the absolute best that they can possibly be. Now, we've got 3 ways for you to get all or some of this information, depending on the path that you choose. The first path that I'll talk about is the online version of this particular class. Now, it's going to have all the information. All of the information will be there in videos and in downloads that you can view, learn from, and then action steps that you have to implement to actually make these things happen in your school. So there's one way for you to learn this information is the online version. Another opportunity we have is to have me come out and speak with your school, your staff. Now, that's not going to get you all of the information, because when I'm doing this for a staff, I'm really talking to teachers, trying to help them understand the importance of their engagement and how to, in the very best that we can in 6 hours, how to help them bring all of this together for their kids. So at least it gives them a taste and can help motivate them a little bit along the way. And the third opportunity we have for you is the one that is the most intense. It's the coaching program. And in the Pathway to Proficiency coaching program, we start by having 3 face-to-face days together. We do this in cohort groups of small groups of about 20 people. And in those groups, we spend 3 days going through all of the information that's pertinent that you would get on the online class, but we do it live, which is so much better and it's so much more engaging because I get to look at you, I get to know and understand you, I can feel what you're going through, we can talk about things and interact about things, and you get, the most wonderful thing is you get the experience of everybody else in the room as well. So that one is the one that brings this all together the very best, because we spend 3 days together going through things, and by the time you leave with a plan. You know exactly what it is that you're going to do. But it doesn't end there. For the next school year, because this happens in the summer, for the next school year, we work with you every month. We have calls together where we do a webinar and bring everybody together for whatever amount of time it takes on a monthly basis so that we can talk about what it is that's happening in your school, what successes are you seeing, what challenges are you facing, how can we get through those things. So we really do help you through that process. And again, you get all of your colleagues helping you through that process as well. When we get to the very end of the year, then we get that group back together again of 20 people or so, whomever is in that group. We get that cohort group back together, and you present then to the rest of the people what it is that you have done, the process that you went through at your school, the challenges you faced, the successes that you had, the celebrations that you had, the victories that you had, and what you plan to do with it from that point forward. And so it brings us full circle, and at that point you're the masters. At that point you're ready to go. You're ready to really dig in and make a significant difference in your school, in your community. So that's it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact Angela or send her an email. Do something, but get a hold of us. Please don't hesitate. We want you to be a part of this. We want you to take every advantage that you possibly can. I encourage you to do so. I lastly want to thank you for all that you do. I know it's hard work. I've had an opportunity to work with so many people over the course of decades, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I've had and everything that people have taught me along the way. You do significant work. You do important work. Thank you so much for your dedication. I look forward to seeing you on the inside, hopefully see you in person, but whatever way that you can, I know it's going to make a difference. Thank you so much. Take care.